Hello guys, this is Radu from Think It Lift, and I'm here with Greg Gallagher from Kinobody. Thank you, yes. We're here to talk about how to maintain a low body fat, and Greg has been doing this for months now, and I'm sure he has a lot of things to share.
That's right, man. Yep. Well, thank you for the introduction and the applause. I do appreciate that, and I'm happy to talk about this stuff with you, Radu.
Okay, awesome. So the first thing I'd like to talk about is why would we want to maintain a low body fat?
Well, that's a good question. And everyone has their different reasons, but really it comes down to the fact that when you're at a low body fat, you just look better. Everything looks better. You're more attractive. I mean, that's why models have to be so slim, is because they look better in clothes. Their face becomes more lean and angular. And I even had a picture somewhere, which is basically just my face at like 13% body fat and then at 7%, and it was like night and day difference. You just get more of that. You get more like the jawline, more of the angular look. Your waist, you get more proportion. Like your weight, like especially people that are interested in working out and building muscle. When you're at a lower body fat, you have way better proportion because when your waist is smaller, it makes your shoulders, your chest, your arms, everything look bigger, and then your muscles will be harder and more defined because you don't have the fat blurring it. So just the advantage. I mean, the reason why I want to maintain a low body fat is because it looks fantastic. And going back to like the Hollywood example, because I always like to go into the Hollywood example. When people see that actor that like had his shirt off in that movie role, and they're like, damn, he looked insane. It's not really that he had that much muscle mass. It's not that he had that much muscle mass. If you look at Brad Pitt in Fight Club, people talk about his physique all the time. He didn't have that much muscle. He just had like 6% body fat, and so you could just, all his muscles just popped out. If he was to gain 15 pounds of fat, you would think nothing of it. You'd be like, oh, because then he'd be like 13% body fat. It's like, whatever. Okay, he looks fit, but if you look at a movie like Gladiator, which was a fantastic movie, it was one of my favorites. No one was really talking about Russell Crowe's physique.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
No one cared. Like he looked like he took on the role. He had some muscle, but like he was like 15% body fat or something. So no one really cared. But then if you look at like Brad Pitt, he probably had the same amount of muscle development, but just he was at 8%. So it was night and day difference. Another huge benefit of being very lean is it will make you more athletic. When you get rid of all the extra fat, you'll be able to sprint faster, jump higher. You'll be able to better handle your body weight. So stuff like muscle ups and one-arm chin-ups are easier. If you look at some of my videos, in order for me to do one-arm chin-ups or even 2 one-arm chin-ups per arm, I had to have that body fat down like to 8% or less. Otherwise, it's just the relative strength isn't there. And that's why gymnasts and sprinters and Olympic athletes all are very, very lean, because they're more powerful. They're able to express their power more effectively relative to their body weight when their fat levels are extremely, extremely low. Is there anything else we're missing as far as like, why would someone want to be lean? I mean, we're talking more about the aesthetics and the cosmetics, but I mean, even just maintaining a lower weight tends to be has like health benefits. There's health benefits there, especially when even stuff like intermittent fasting, calorie restriction has like life extension benefits.
Yeah, that's true. And also, if you have low body fat, you can gain muscle and look decent year round, because if you start your bulk when you're 8%, you can just gain size and muscle until you hit like 12% body fat, and you're still gonna look good in that range. And you can then drop back to 8 or 9. But if you start bulking when you're over 13, you're gonna look horrible.
Yeah, it's a very good point.
Okay, so why do you think, Greg, that people find it so hard to maintain a low body fat once they get there? Because even getting there is hard for some people.
I think that a couple of things are going on, but I mean, one of the biggest issues why people can't maintain a low body fat is because they hate their diet in the first place. So yeah, if you go from, you know, whatever it is, 15%, 20, 30% body fat down to 10% or less, and it was miserable and you hated it and it was just like a means to an end and the whole thing was terrible, well, you're not going to maintain it. Like, you're not. That's just out of the cards, because why would you keep doing that? You're going to go back to your old eating habits because you're like, oh, I can't do this anymore. And then you're going to start to put the weight back on, usually pretty quickly. That's just what happens all the time. So, I mean, you know, getting into stuff like set point and settling point is quite interesting. But ultimately, the most important thing is, if you're going to maintain a low body fat, you have to get there in an enjoyable way. Because that thing is like fail proof. Because if you can enjoy getting to 8% body fat, well then you can probably enjoy maintaining 8% body fat even more, because it gives you more leeway. You need more.
Yeah, and if your diet is enjoyable, because something I found really interesting is that the approach you lose fat on should also be the approach you keep the fat off. So once you get to the body fat that you want, you should maintain the diet you used to get there, because that's the only way you're gonna maintain it. So you need to think about making your diet as enjoyable as possible from the beginning, because most people that when they diet, they remove every enjoyable meal from their eating habits, and they stop going out with friends. They don't go to social interactions. So of course you can't maintain that. And if that's the only method you know of getting lean, staying lean will not be possible for you.
Bam. Okay, I completely agree with you. I'm really glad you brought that up, Radu. Like, that's like something that takes people a long time to figure out. Actually, a lot of these diet gurus haven't figured it out, because they propagate, like, you know, low carb dieting. It's like, are you really gonna not eat carbs for the rest of your life? You know, only eat these 6 foods or whatever. Like, you know, so like, yes, if you think that you're gonna follow some crazy diet and then do that for 3 months, get ripped, and then stay ripped, and then go back to like other eating, it's not gonna happen.
And I was actually watching a really nice video by Eric Helms, where he was talking about set points, settling points, and the functional range. And he was saying how
what we're talking about is a body fat set point. And the idea is that essentially we function like a thermostat. Okay? So if we get overly fat and we're overeating, our body tries to burn more calories. So to try to have us not go outside of the range that it wants us to stay in, just like a thermostat as far as body fat percentage. And then if we get really lean and start losing a lot of weight and eat a lot less, it will do things to try to burn less calories or make us consume more calories so that we gain weight and get back to the calorie level in the body fat range that it wants. Okay? The two major interacting things here are energy balance and then also body fat mass. And either one of them can upset this thermostat. And when combined, they can have additive effects. And the body fat set point range for most people is probably somewhere between, for men, 7 to 15%, and for women, probably add about 10 to 12% body fat to that. Okay? And a really good distinction is this a set point or a settling point? Because if you were to look at modern society, we have gotten much fatter over the past 50 years. Is it that all our set points are just going up? Is our thermostats broken? No, it's that we have biology and environment, okay? And the environment affects biology, biology affects environment, and I include psychology on this side of it because basically our behaviors, our society, the abundance of food, the ease of getting places without moving, the fact that we don't have to hunt for our food, all of these things make it easier and easier to surpass our set point and harder to get below it, okay? And you could probably look at back to the Ice Age, and you probably have a lot of people who are very well below their set point, and they can maintain it quite well, and mainly because they can't find any food, right? So obviously it's not just about biology being a hardline rule, what's around you, what's available, and your society, your family, your beliefs, the way you deal with stress, all these things are going to come together to kind of create what's called a settling point, which is going to be where you tend to hang out if you just kind of do your thing in terms of body fat percentage.
I wanted to ask you, Greg, do you know what do you think your set point is?
So it's hard to say, but like I feel like when I got into like 18, 9, like I would say it's probably about 12%.
12? Yeah.
11, 12.
I'm actually around there too, because I was looking through my photos before I started working out, and I was also health conscious. I mean, I was eating in moderation like any other guy, and I maintain probably 13-14% body fat. And I realized that even now, if I don't consciously focus on choosing the right foods and doing intermittent fasting, so I don't eat a lot, I actually gravitate toward that point as well back. So
yeah, actually, you know what? I think mine's higher, because when I was in LA like 4 years ago, I got my body fat tested, and I was like on the dieting, man. I was like 12%, 13%. So I don't know, like.
I asked you about your set point because I wanted to see if you two consciously maintain yourself below that set point, because I realized that if I eat as my body wants, I will go back to 12, 13, 14% body fat. But I found a system that allows me to maintain below that easily, and I did that with food choices and diet structure. So for food choices, I started to choose foods that are more satiating, like potatoes, lean meats, veggies, fruits. In the past, I didn't do that. I would eat whatever I found. But now, yeah, that made a big difference. And also, when I started intermittent fasting, that also made me less prone to eat more. So with these two variables, I was able to keep below my set point for almost 2 years now. And I wanted to see if you did something like this too.
Definitely. On that whole settling point note, like, I'm glad you brought that up. Like, it's usually, the set point is usually not that high. Like, someone that's 30% body fat is like, oh, what? My body fat set point is 30%. No, it's not 30%, okay? That's just your environmental factors, your different eating and behavioral strategies that have brought you to 30%. They've actually done studies where they had, like, 2 groups of people, lean people, and like lean in like medical reference is like probably 16% and less. So it's not like what we think, like 10% and less. It's like lean is like healthy. And then they had the overweight people, which were overweight. And then they had them basically feed out of like some tasteless tube. So 3 times a day, they would like literally drink some like calorie beverage. And it was like, this is like tasteless. And so they found that on average, the overweight people on a daily basis consumed like 1,700 calories per day. And the lean people consumed closer to 3,000. So what's going on there? Wait, what? The overweight people are eating way less than the lean people? And the lean people are eating way more than overweight? What's going on here? Is it because the lean people have much, much, much faster metabolisms? No. Overweight people have faster metabolisms than lean people. If someone's 250 pounds, they're going to burn a hell of a lot more calories than someone that's 150. That's just, this is facts of the matter. What's going on is that now when you take these overweight people, pull them out of their habitual patterns of like, you know, going out to going out to the coffee store, getting donuts and then doing this and then eating pizza at night, and just give them fucking shitty food that tastes like nothing. They don't have the chance to go and grab the cookies at night and then saying, hey, this is your eating time, yo. This is when you can eat. And then when they want to eat and it's like, oh, they can't. And so then they're actually falling back into their true set point. They're pulling the settling point out of it and they're falling into their actual set point. And so because they're 30% body fat, maybe their set point is 14%, their body is naturally going to drift down to that 14% body fat. And then the lean people are literally, maybe they're at their set point. And so they're just going to eat enough to maintain their weight. Because all the stuff that comes into play, like, when you want to just snack during this time and you it's like a lot of these foods are just really hard to control. A lot of food, like me, I can't eat cookies. I had to accept that. If I want to be 8% body fat, I can't eat cookies. It's not because cookies magically cause me to store fat. It's because I can't have fucking 5 cookies and stop. I want the whole bag. So I don't eat cookies, but you know what? I eat frozen yogurt ice cream and I sprinkle some chocolate chips on there. I have 400 calories and I'm freaking feeling amazing. So so I guess on that note, cause I brought up the whole example of how when overweight people eat kind of like that, they'll lose weight and stuff. Well, that's why it's really important to find foods on your diet that actually make dieting easy. So if you're someone that, if you're going to lose weight at 1,800 calories, let's say you're an average male, it's 80 pounds, and you're going to lose weight, let's say maybe it's 2,000 calories. Well, find the way to make 2,000 calories as enjoyable as possible. And so eating foods like lean meats and potatoes and veggies and fruits and, using some fats and oils to make the food tastier and more satisfying is really good. Eating stuff like rice and pasta and protein shakes and granola bars and that stuff isn't going to be as filling. And don't get me wrong, you can still include foods you like maybe chocolate and this dessert and that, and you can include it into your plan. You just have to make sure that it's something that you can fit into those calorie numbers and eat in moderation without going over. Mm-hmm. So the main thing is the motif is how can I get lean and enjoy it? And then maintaining a low body fat is really, really simple. And so sometimes people ask me, they'll start intermittent fasting and they'll eat 2 meals a day and have all these huge meals on their diet and they'll enjoy it. And then they'll be like, Greg, what happens when I get to my goal? Do I keep intermittent fasting or do I stop? I'm like, no, keep intermittent fasting. Right now we're trying to structure things in a way that allows you to enjoy food to the utmost while reaching your fat loss goals. So even me, even if I'm hitting maintenance, I will do intermittent fasting. I'll eat 1 huge meal a day and then I'll have 1 smaller meal. And then I'll just figure it out. But if I was to go back to eating I've been intermittent fasting daily for about 4 or 5 years, but if I was gonna I wouldn't be able to maintain my body fat eating the 4 or 5 meals a day thing. I just couldn't. Because I would just want to keep eating. I would just want to keep eating. So actually so kind of bringing kind of tying in the body fat set point in here, it's sure, if I was 13-14% body fat, I probably could do a typical eating pattern, a modern day eating pattern, the most people do, where they have the breakfast, lunch, and dinner, maybe a snack or 2, and they still even people that maintain 15, 16%, 18% body fat, they're not stuffing their face in every day. They don't eat a ton. It's just they have their they have their 3 meals, whatever. They have the snacks here and there, but they're not stuffing themselves. They're usually usually people that really are eating a lot are the ones that are actively gaining. So, I mean, sure, I could do that typical thing at 13-14% body fat and I'd probably be able to stay there fine. But as far as keeping my body under 10%, under 8%, it's I gotta follow that same structure that got me there. Because if I don't, I'm gonna go right back. I'm not gonna be able to enjoy it. And so the difference is let's say I'm cutting at 2,100 calories per day. And that's what it took me to get down to 8% body fat. Well, now I can maybe eat 2,600 calories per day, 2,700. I'm still going to do the same structure. I'm still going to do the fast, still going to do the 2 meals, but then I just have those other calories to throw in. Or maybe I won't even throw them in there. Maybe I'll stick to my diet, 3-4 days per week, and then the other 3 days I'll go out and I'll be okay, bam, time to eat some serious food. And so I'll balance it out. So really the approach that's really allowed me to get down to 7-8% body fat is actually what I laid out in my aggressive fat loss program. That whole protocol is really it just makes eating that, whatever it is, whatever your calorie intake needs to be, and I'll show you how to calculate that. It makes it so simple, so easy, so enjoyable, and you're so satisfied. And so that's at kinobodyfatloss.com. But I'm actually kind of like, that's just the diet that I stick to year round. Sometimes I'll just go higher in calories with the same protocol, which is basically like the intermittent, like the fasting with black coffee to suppress your appetite. Like this is how the way I did the aggressive fat loss course is pretty much hacking eating at a deficit, making eating a deficit so easy, which pretty much allows you to maintain a much lower body fat for life. And so I do that by making fasting easy. How do we make fasting easy? Well, we use black coffee to blunt your appetite, but drink the coffee slowly. Don't just pound it in the morning. And only drink coffee during that fast. If you have coffee in the afternoon after one of your meals, you're not going to be as sensitive to it. So the appetite suppression the next day won't be that powerful. So usually what I do is, not everyone can do this, but what I do is I'll wake up and I won't even have coffee for the first hour or two. Then it's so easy dieting. And then the whole idea is eating 2 meals a day, one really big meal to like make you feel incredible, and then one more moderate meal. And then I use a couple of strategic fruit snacks around that to make it really easy. One thing I do is like to make dieting so easy is like, if I'm having for a big ass meal, if I'm having like some big ass steak or something like that, I'll eat like the veggies and the protein first, and then I'll kick back and I'll eat the carbs when I want them. So I'm not eating it all at once and I'm done. I'll have a big protein feast, and then maybe an hour, 2 hours later, I'll like watch some TV and I'll eat some potato wedges. That's why fasting is so fantastic, because it gives you that almost like that it almost takes you out of that mode where you just want to eat for pleasure, and it gets you in touch with like your physiological need for food. And then which is really powerful, and then you kind of break away from your mind. So instead of eating mindlessly because you're bored or for this and that, it kind of takes you out of that. So fasting daily keeps that willpower sharp. And then I still get to fucking eat to my heart's extent. I'm like, oh yes, I'm eating so much food. It's like beautiful. But I think one really important point for me is, as far as me staying at like being able to hold a deficit, being able to stay at 8% body fat, I had to let go of eating a lot of protein. I had to, yeah, because I know it's like really in vogue to be like, oh, if you want to get lean, eat high protein, because protein is the most filling macronutrient. If you eat, chicken breast is gonna be more full than eating rice. Well, for me, and for I think a lot of people, here's the thing, if you're fasting, then and eating like 2 meals a day, you can eat, big servings of protein without getting in a ton of protein, with even going lower than a gram per pound of body weight. And so carbs actually are really important at triggering leptin, at raising leptin, because leptin is a hormone that regulates your body weight and your appetite, your energy levels. And so leptin is controlled either by the amount of fat you have. Someone that has more fat is going to have higher leptin. That's why the people that were overweight, when they put them on the 3 meals a day with like bland food, they ate a lot less because the leptin levels were so high. But the other thing that controls leptin is the amount of carbs you eat. So when you eat a lot of carbs, especially at night, when you like eat a lot of carbs at night in a fasting setup, it actually limits the drop off of leptin. Mm-hmm. So low carb dieting can really screw up with your leptin levels. And so for me, I needed to drop my protein down a bit in order to have more carbs in there. And carbs also help promote testosterone. There's actually, people don't realize this because protein's like protein build muscle, protein this and that, but they've done studies where they've literally put people on they kept fat the same, it's probably like 30%. They had people on like a high protein diet with lower carbs, and they had people on a lower protein diet with higher carbs. And funny enough, the low protein group had their testosterone levels were 30% higher after 10 days, because carbs are so friggin' important to testosterone, and so is fat. But our protein needs aren't that high. If you want to get as much as you could possibly need, it's going to be about 0.82 grams per pound of body weight. So if you weigh 200 pounds, about 160 grams per day, not the 250, 300, 350 grams people are telling you to eat. Because if you're trying to get lean and you want to eat that 250 grams of protein, well, your carbs are going to go smack down. You're stuck at 100 a day, and that's going to suck for your testosterone. Your mood is going to be shit, because carbs help release stuff like serotonin, tryptophan, And so when I was going higher in protein, my carbs were down. And so I wouldn't feel that good.
Mm-hmm.
Serotonin levels are down, so you don't feel happy, relaxed. Like when I did the low carb thing, I would sit and I'd watch a movie and I'd feel like depressed. I'd watch a comedy, I wouldn't laugh because those neurotransmitters were just not firing properly. So I had to get away from the whole high protein thing. I had to get my protein down. Now I eat most of my protein in one meal, which is I love it. And then I also eat a lot of fats and carbs. I keep my calories where they need to be, but I get in lots of fats and carbs. And fats, of course, help promote fullness. Fats also help, of course, with testosterone, but it's not just fats, it's carbs as well. And so, and moreover, like if I was to do a high protein diet, let's say high protein, high carb, low fat, I would never feel satisfied or full. Fat like helps release like neuropeptide, like PPY, that helps with feeling satisfied. So when I do diets and stuff for people and for myself, it's like I like to make sure that the meals are balanced. There's that fat there. There's some carbs. There's some protein, because that's most important for hormonal levels, for the neurotransmitters, so that you feel good. And then if you go too low on carbs, sleep sucks. So if you can't sleep, if you're lying in your bed, you're tossing and turning, and you're hungry, you're gonna go down. You're gonna want to eat some food. So it's really about finding how to make this most enjoyable. And so I know Burkhan is a huge fan of really high protein.
Yeah.
But that is something that like the only way to do that is to go really low in fat or low in carbs, and both of those suck. So and plus, if you wanna feel good on a diet, or you wanna feel good maintaining 8% body fat, 7% body fat, then you want to have those carbs and fats, because that will help with your sex drive. When I'm cutting, a lot of times I will have a entire chocolate bar, like a chocolate almond bar, like a chocolate bar, and friggin' shit, it's like the fat, the carbs, and all that. Like, I feel so good eating it. It like ramps up my sex drive. I'm like a horny bastard. It's amazing. And like this stuff like this just makes it so easy. And then like that program, like I wrote an entire workout to go hand in hand with it to support that chisel physique. Excel spreadsheet to track to calculate your macros and calories for you. And I got a Project Beach Rip group in Facebook, which is exclusive to aggressive fat loss people, and they're all freaking getting ripped and loving it and so satisfied. It's really, really inspiring. But yeah, the last thing we're going to talk about, Radu, is but yeah, I'll send you that. Last thing we're going to talk about is basically the psychological component.
Yeah, I wanted to get into that.
Yeah. Well, I'll let you take the reins then.
So in my opinion, the biggest thing is your self-image. You were talking about this before we started recording. You were saying how if you don't see yourself with a six-pack, you're not gonna maintain that. I actually work with clients myself, and I can tell from the beginning which one of them are gonna succeed and who will not be able to maintain their physique after they diet down. And I do that by asking them a few questions. So one of the best tests that I've observed is you ask a person how they see themselves 6, 7, 8 months from now. So let's say that now it's April. I'll ask a guy, how does he see himself next Christmas? And if they see themselves wearing the same clothes, eating the same kinds of foods, going to the same kinds of places, hanging out with the same kinds of friends, then in their mind they did not make the change. They are still the same person, and they will get the same results as they always did.
That's powerful, man. I like that a lot.
Yeah, and actually there is a great book by Maxwell Maltz. It's called Psycho-Cybernetics. It was a really bestseller in 1960, I think it went out. And he talks about how the self-image, it's like a cybernetic mechanism. So a cybernetic mechanism is a mechanism that controls the output in order to reach a certain goal. So for example, a thermostat is a cybernetic mechanism because you set the temperature at, let's say, 20 degrees Celsius, I don't know, Fahrenheit. And if outside is cold, let's say it's winter, then it automatically heats up the room in order to bring the temperature back to 20. If it's really hot outside in the summer, then it turns on the air conditioning and it brings down the temperature. And self-image works pretty much the same way. So if you see yourself in a certain way and you get better results than you think you deserve or you see yourself as getting, then unconsciously you will come back to that level that you are used to. And also, if you get worse results than you see yourself as getting, then you will work really hard in order to get back to what you believe it's the normality. And that's why I think we see people losing and gaining a ton of weight over the course of a year because they oscillate between what is their self-image.
Bam, that's very well said, man. Like, yeah, that's perfect. That's why I have two drills that I have people do, like clients, and I actually added them to my aggressive fat loss program. But it goes right into what you're saying, into the self-image. One of them is just literally listening to stuff like Eckhart Tolle and learning how to become present. Because what does that require? In order for you to become present, you need to be able to disidentify from your mental stream, your thoughts. And so if you are someone, if right now, like, you're chilling here and you're like, man, like, and you have like some negative thought, like, I can't do this and that, then that thought has power over you and it will shape your behavior. But if you're able to learn how to, just pull back and just observe these thoughts coming out and just treating them like little like antics, then all of a sudden, like, that power stays within you. And so over the course of several weeks, you can cut ties of all these negative thoughts that are holding you back and then create more positive, self-serving thoughts. And so that's just learning how to become present in the moment. So that's huge. And so, I mean, one thing that's really powerful. I mean, that's one of the drills. The other drill is something which kind of goes into also what you're saying is, how do you see yourself in 6 months? Well, I have one drill where it's essentially self-hypnosis. You literally listen to a tape and you just slowly just start to relax your body. You go into a deep state of relaxation. You relax your shoulders and your arms, and then you go through like some like visualization exercises. And then you literally see yourself how you want to look. You create strong visualization of how you want to be, of how lean you are. And it's something that you don't have to do every day, but it's something I recommend listening to at least like half a dozen times or a couple dozen times. It's like 20 minutes long. And what happens is, like, before, when I was at that point where I was like stuck in I always wanted to overeat and eat more. When I started doing that, the next day, my appetite was down. It was weird. When normally I would eat and then I want to keep eating. When I started doing that drill, I would start to feel more satisfied on my diet. And weirdly enough, my weight came down faster. It was bizarre. But that's just the power of aligning your self-image with that person that you want to be. Instead of running from what you don't want, literally putting yourself into like just what you want. So, and it doesn't really, here's the thing, it doesn't really work to just kind of like, people like to do affirmations, like to just visualize right off the go and be like, okay, 6% body fat, it's really cool. It doesn't work the same because you have to do it on an unconscious level. You have to reach that deep state of relaxation where it's really, really effective. But I mean, those are two things. Some people might not ever need that. You might just jump into this diet. You might freaking love it. And it might be easy. You might not have to do any of that. But if for people that kind of struggle with this stuff or they get to that sticking point, it's powerful. And on the Eckhart Tolle note, because I brought up the whole being present and stuff like that, these are the things that really work for me, and I know a lot of people too. But it's important not to identify with, not to base your self-image off how you look. And I know pretty much everyone does that to some degree. They're like, they'll feel more confident because their scale's lower that day, or they'll like look in the mirror and they're like, yes, okay, or they're like, oh, I look like shit, this is horrible, whatever. and then their entire self, their entire emotional state will fluctuate based on like their body and how they're doing. So if your emotional, if you as a person is going to be, if your state's going to be all over the place like fucking waves based on how you look, you're never going to be able to get to that goal. You have to be centered. You have to be the fucking rock. You gotta, if otherwise you're just going to beat yourself up. You're going to be up and down, up and down, up and down. I mean, if you're identified with how you look, you're never going to look good enough. You're never going to look good enough because there's always someone that's more ripped, you know?
But I wanted to add to something you said before, that when you do those visualizations, your behavior tends to change the days after. And one of my favorite quotes by Napoleon Hill actually explains this in one phrase, and I'm gonna tell it to you. So he says that any dominating idea, plan, or purpose held in the mind through repetition of thought and emotionalized with a burning desire for its realization is taken over by the subconscious portion of the mind and then becomes a blueprint that automatically influences the actions of the body towards the attainment of that purpose.
Any dominating idea, plan, or purpose held in the mind through repetition of thought, any dominating idea, plan, or purpose held in the mind through repetition of thought and emotionalized with a burning desire for its realization is taken over by the subconscious section of the mind and acted upon through whatever natural and logical means that may be available. Now, in that paragraph, you've got a tremendous lesson in psychology. If you want the mind to pick up an idea and to form a habit so that the mind will automatically act upon that idea, you've got to tell the mind what you want over and over and over again. No end to it.
Damn. Wow.
Yeah, so basically, what the body is but the servant of the mind, because every movement we do is actually the product of a thought we have. And if your actions follow your thoughts, then if your thoughts are, in your thoughts you see yourself as the person you want to be, then you'll automatically begin to act like that person. And actually, one of the biggest realizations I had is that when you visualize yourself as you want to be, the greatest value is not, as you see on the internet, that is going to magically happen. Actually, that's the moment you observe the differences between what you from your imagination is doing and what the current you is doing, and then you see the differences that needs to be made in order for you to get there. If we believe that your self-image is a cybernetic mechanism, then that means that as long as your goal is set and you don't change it, then you will move towards it, but you won't go in a straight line. You'll do it in some zigzag fashion, because the self-image will constantly adjust your behavior and your actions in order to bring you to the results that you want. It's like a rocket going to the moon. They say that when you send a rocket to the moon, it's actually off course 97% of the time, because it's always making little tweaks in its trajectory. It's not going in a straight line. So we can be the same way. The most important thing is to have your goal, to know where you want to go, and when you focus your energy onto that, then you will unconsciously become that person.
Damn. Wow, we covered a lot of stuff. This thing is crazy value.
Yeah, this is powerful stuff.
It's very powerful, dude. Okay.
Thanks a lot, guys, for watching. If you have any questions, leave a comment below, and also check out Greg's Aggressive Fat Loss course. See ya.
Thank you.